Lately, I've been delighted by taking day trips. Part of me feels like it's a little adventure within the week that I can look forward to and not have to prepare so much about. And I'm always finding more reasons to be more in touch with nature. I feel like this year really sent me into a fascination with nature in general and flowers, especially now that it's spring. And going to the Botanical Garden was a great way to kind of immerse ourselves into this oasis of flowers and different things that you can discover while perusing around nature. I also have noticed that my mind is a bit clearer when I'm surrounded by greenery and just taking in the whiffs of like smelling flowers, drawing and paying attention to the different structures that you can see and the different breeds of flowers and plants that you can see while you're doing your daily walk or going to a big garden like this. I am literally one of the people I know who stops and smells the flowers, especially now that I live in Berlin, and growing up I never got to see these types of flowers in Manila. For me, it's such a delight to see them in real life, especially the pops of color and how they just exist in nature, knowing that they're also thriving and growing in their own way. In any case, I like to explore alone, but when a friend invites me to go explore, it's always a good idea because there's just a really nice feeling of getting to witness the same thing as someone else and sharing that moment and also existing in that same time and space. I know that sounds very existential, but since I've been living alone for 2-ish years now, I find that the novelty of friendships are really, really fleeting, and also just not even friendships, but people who just have the same interests and hobbies as you. And for example, drawing for me is like a very meditative activity, but if a friend invites me to draw with them, I'm totally up for that. And that was what we did at the Botanical Garden. I've also been switching between watercolor and just ink when it came to drawing, especially because I have a tendency to spend longer time painting, and I don't know if that's something I want to continue or just be more brisk with my strokes and just get more impressions of the illustration or the subject for that matter. I've also been thinking about how I document my days recently. Like, at first I've always just been very, very upfront about journaling and writing things down and logging, and that became my main way to document my life and my travels. But I realized that part of that is also what you see, which is drawing. And I have an on and off relationship with drawing only because I take it for granted that I don't do it as often as I can, which is really ironic because my job as an artist, ultimately the first thing you'll probably think is I draw every day or I paint every day, but I don't. So I have been training myself to carry a sketchbook with me, bring a journal, bring a watercolor pad with me, because it's also a way for me to break free from my own constraints. I tend to be such a perfectionist also when it comes to putting together like a travel journal spread, for example, where I paint a lot and like do a lot of impressions of certain things. Sometimes I just like drawing and painting for the sake of it being a thing, you know, not having to exist for some type of content, but just so I can express myself on paper. And I didn't realize that nature would be such a perfect subject for that. But then I thought about it, you know, I was like, yeah, it makes sense because it's very unique and there are so many things that I can definitely explore with nature. Nature is so broad. There's like leaves, flowers, trees, going to gardens, going to parks, hiking. I'm figuring out how to still hike and journal. So far I've been just doing the hiking part and like going out, but just this chance to just sit down also and to kind of absorb everything that happened while going to a garden or visiting a new place for the first time. How about you? How do you connect with nature? I feel like I'm very baby to this topic, but I'm just starting to really appreciate nature for what it is and learning to take in the fresh air, especially when I need to. I'm pretty lucky that the current room I'm staying in has a balcony, so it allows me to open my windows, which I'll probably do after this voiceover, and take in a bit of fresh air and see the sky. Sometimes I get to see a really nice sunset, and maybe I'll get to paint more sunsets, but for now I've been really just enjoying the greens and the vibrant colors that flowers have. And this is actually making me want to go to Monet's water lilies garden in Giverny at some point in France, hopefully in the future. But I totally get it now, like why nature has been so healing and why it is so vital for us to just take a whiff of the fresh air and, as the cliche goes, to, stop and smell the flowers, literally and figuratively. Just got back from a really nice afternoon out with Lynn. We went to the Botanical Garden here in Berlin. It's kind of far from the city. Maybe like for me, it takes like 40 to 50 minutes to get there, but it really is a treasure trove of flowers, trees, leaves, and plants. And there is a really nice greenhouse as well. So honestly, it was worth the trip, and it's always a good idea to bring a sketchbook. So I thought I'd share with you some of the things I sketched during that afternoon. I also realized that flowers for me would be the best subject to draw like on the fly and draw more consistently. I did 2 spreads. So this was the first spread, and I tried drawing on the spot, which was actually not as intimidating as I thought it would, because usually the idea of like transforming 3D to 2D is a bit scary to me. The second one are some loose illustrations I did of a couple more flowers that I really enjoyed illustrating. For the on-location sketching, I'm using the Royal Talens tiny sketchbook, you can see here, and I use this one. This is the Tombow Fudenosake pen. I really like it for quick sketches. It's just really smooth. And we also sat down a few hours later, and I decided to paint a couple of flowers that I saw. But I realized I really like doing more black and white. But it was some rough paintings of some of the flowers we saw. You can sense there's a color scheme going on. Obviously still very much leaning into the warm tones, but we saw a lot of pink flowers as well and other species. So I'm going to be logging the rest of them on my hike / park / walking journal, walking log, together with this really nice ticket That was the entrance ticket. So I took out also my Blackwing pencils. They have been really useful for sketching on the go. So I also use it for pencil sketches before I get to line art. So yeah, it was really nice. I'm filming this so that I can remember how much I really enjoyed the experience, and that nature is really a great way to honestly, just like the idea of like walking around an entire garden is such a treat in itself. And I think the act of paying more attention and looking at little details like the leaves and the elements that really make up trees and plants, and realizing how vastly diverse our ecosystem is just really humbling and really great experience. I really promised myself this year that I would go out and draw more, and also pay attention to what's right in front of me instead of constantly looking for the next big thing and being super attached to the outcome. I'm just learning to enjoy the process more and really savor the journey instead of the destination. Thank you for watching. I don't know if I have to cut that, but